Hey everybody, Alex here, and welcome to another video. Take two, because I had a realization halfway through the first one, so we're redoing this thing, and I have two Diet Cokes here. One is partially empty, the other one is half full. So first off, if you believe in the holiday, if you celebrate the holiday, if you're not celebrating the holiday, or you think it's just commercial bullshit, happy Valentine's Day. I am 50-50 on Valentine's Day, and my wife is also 50-50 on Valentine's Day. Truthfully, we see it not as a day that you're supposed to propose love to somebody or ask somebody out. For us, it's an excuse to go out and enjoy each other's company in a world where we both don't always have the time to do that. And where she and I just are happy to do our daily things. I wake up every day at 4. I put on some ambient and I work out, and then I doom scroll for an hour and a half, and then I play a video game, and then I go to work, and then she wakes up at 7. She goes to school and gets agitated and comes home at 4, and then I proceed to have verbal diarrhea about my day, and then she eventually just tunes me out. But I think that's the key to a relationship, right? Is eventually you do get into a rhythm. And it's important to have a day like an anniversary and a Valentine's Day, as a reason to go out and celebrate one another and to celebrate what you share together. But it's a very stressful holiday for a lot of people. And I'm saying holiday because, growing up and going to Catholic school, St. Valentine's Day, it's a holiday, whether you like it or not. I honestly think it's the most pain in the ass day of the year, because now it's like, great, now I got to get a dinner reservation. And all my friends in food service hate it because they're like, every table's two. Everybody shows up at the same time. We have to do a preset menu. It's a mess. And then somebody like me always comes and goes, oh, but I don't do carbs. And then messes up the whole thing. And then they're like, "Oh, we have gluten free." I'm like, I don't do any of that. I don't do bread. I don't do any of that. Now it's all fucked up. But I think for me as a kid, growing up, and I don't know if they even still do this today, but around Valentine's Day, in all my classes, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, innocently, on Valentine's Day, everybody would give out cards, happy Valentine's Day, be my Valentine. Everybody gave cards to everybody. There were 60 kids in the class. You came home with 59 cards. And then you get one from your mom or your dad, presumably, right? And sometimes even the teachers would give you one. And that was great. And then as you got older, if you were in a class of 60 people, suddenly you were getting 30 cards, maybe 20 cards, maybe 10 cards. And then in some instances where you were getting a little bit older, you were being selective with who you were giving cards to. And every so often, growing up, and this happened to me, you would hope somebody would give you a Valentine's Day card, or some of those chalky hearts that say, I choose you, or love this, or, 143, I love you, or whatever. You would hope for that, and then you wouldn't get it. And I'll never forget this. One of the biggest crushes I ever had in grammar school. I won't give her name, even though I almost did. I had a crush on her for years. Never said a damn thing. Every Valentine's Day would come up. I never get, what, I think it was around 5th, 6th grade, I stopped giving out cards because I wasn't getting them back. And I don't know, trust me, I don't think it was out of viciousness. I think it's just like, you want to give the wrong impression. But I never gave her one because I was too afraid of her finding out I had a crush. But here's the thing. She and I would talk all the time. Like, we were decently close for 6th graders, right? And it all came to a head one day when we were just chatting. And she goes, Alex, can I show you something? And I'm like, okay. I'm like, what? And she hikes down her skirt a little bit, and she has a tattoo on her hip. Up until then, that is the most skin I'd ever seen on a person of the opposite sex. And when I tell you I fell out of my chair, like comedically, I really did fall out of my chair. Like stop the class. Everybody, what the fuck happened? Alex, why are you on the floor? Why are you red? Now, mind you, at this time, I had glasses, I had braces, and I got acne early. So, triple threat. And I was like, how do you do that? She goes, oh, my mom signed a release form. You should get one too. And I'm like, what? Like, this was unheard of. All my friends, do. I can't believe you just saw that. Oh my God, what did it look like? I didn't know what to make of it, right? Now, she would go on to do other things and this, that, and the third. And, she ran with a different crowd. She ended up smoking cigarettes and, drugs and alcohol very early. She's fine now. She's cleaned up now. But in 8th grade, when we had the 8th grade dance, well, formal thing or whatever, right? It's like third to last song of the whole damn thing. I've been standing around like a goon all night drinking Diet Coke. Truthfully, I've been drinking Diet Coke that long. And I eventually finally got enough courage to ask her to dance. And I just went up to her and I just said, hey, you want to dance? And she said, yeah. So we danced. And then she said to me something that I never thought I'd hear. She said, I always thought you were very cute. And I didn't know what to say. I said, me too. And then she kissed me on the cheek, and that was the last time I ever saw her. Wacky. Now we're friends on Facebook, and I don't even use Facebook, so heaven knows, right? I haven't spoken to her since then, literally. But the reason why I want to share this is because up until that point, I really hadn't had a girlfriend or, a partner, or gone on a date or anything like that. Because my parents, and, this is a product of the time, always said, playing video games and all that stuff, you're never going to meet girls. You're never going to learn how to talk to girls. You're never going to learn to do this, that, and the third, right? Now, I am using girls because that is my sexual attraction. I'm just putting that out there. But I was just, that was literally what was instilled into me. And I didn't know what to do with it. I was shy. I was awkward. Like I said, I had the triple threat of acne, glasses, and braces all at the same time. Who the hell wants to talk to me? And guess what? For the past couple of years on Valentine's Day, I haven't been getting cards from anybody, including the girl I had a crush on, who I sat next to, who showed me a tattoo on her hip, who offered me a Marlboro Red in 7th grade. Like, why is that? There is so much weird, strange stuff going on here. And it really came to a head where even in 7th, 8th grade, I think it was, when the movie Selena came out, all the girls in the class wanted to go see it. And for whatever reason, somebody decided, hey, I'm going to ask somebody out to go see Selena. And then everybody asked somebody out to the movies. All of them went to see Selena, a bunch of my friends included. They all went to the same movie at the same theater at the same time. And I kid you not, because I heard about this afterwards. They all walked in. All the girls went to the right side of the theater. All the boys went to the left side of the theater. And they all watched Selena and had a wonderful time. As a 7th, 8th grader, asking people out and not being able to get a date to go see a stupid movie and to go to Pizzeria Uno for a Chicago-style deep dish, sit down, you people from Chicago, was heartbreaking. I would always hang out with my friends after school. We'd go for a slice of pizza. We bullshit around. We play Magic the Gathering. We go over to somebody's house, this, that, and the third. This is the first Friday we didn't have any of that for as long as I could remember. And I went home by myself. And I was really upset. I felt the lowest of the low that I ever could have felt. And this is a kid who had not been getting Valentine's Day cards, who was too scared to talk to girls. As a matter of fact, on the day where everybody got a date, he didn't get one, despite asking several people. And I didn't even ask people I was like, and this is going to sound awful, I didn't even ask people I was like super attracted to in terms of a romantic sense. You know, I asked this one girl who she and I just talked. You know, we did like after school stuff together all the time. You know, it's just like, hey, you know, she's like, oh, no, I'm good. And then she went with some other guy. Even though I had like no romantic interest whatsoever, it still hurt. So I go home and I play video games. And the one thing that my parents said, you'll never, ever meet a girl that way. But here's the thing, though. And this is where it kind of ties into RPGs a little bit. I was seeing how romance played out from like a teenage quote-unquote perspective through JRPGs. You know, your Lunars. For example, between Alex and Luna. Hero and Lucia as well. Cecil and Rosa, I mean, I was a little too dumb to understand that one at the time, but eventually, oh yeah, that's actually pretty deep. You know, just seeing like, you know, Locke's growth as an individual, you know, seeing loss and all that stuff. And, you know, even eventually later on with the Persona games, you know, as, you know, being in my 20s and now having dated before, you know, seeing how social links work, you know, and I was like, huh, yeah, it is kind of like dating. You get to know a person each time you go out with them a little bit more. And then in the case of Persona 3, you know, you're speaking with a bunch of different people, and then at the end you have to decide who you ultimately want to be with. Now, my brain does not function like that. I could not juggle multiple romantic partners at the same time ever. But that's literally kind of sort of maybe how it is. But here's the other part of it too. You know, as much as video games were kind of frowned upon and whatnot, you know, it kind of was like a tie-in for me and my wife a little bit. So if you don't know, a bunch of you guys do know, but just putting that out there. I actually met my wife in high school. We dated, and then we broke up, and then we dated again, and then we broke up again. And then we didn't date for a while. We dated other people, and then we found each other again, and then we broke up again, and then I did something dumb, and then she did something dumb, and then eventually we got back together again. Now here we are. But when I say we broke up, it was like several years in between, and like the stupid high school one was literally because I graduated, and it was like, oh, but you're going to college. I went to college in New York. She went to college in New York. Like, and then we got back together when she was a freshman. It was the stupidest thing. You know, and we laugh about it. I was like, hey, remember when we broke up for 3 months? For no reason. But regardless, you know, when she and I started to talk, you know, I literally, I'll never forget this. I'm on the phone with her. We're talking about like nothing. We're just, you know, bullshitting about anything. And I'm playing Ark the Lad on the PS1. And, you know, I'm trying to, like, fight a boss or something. You know, I never would admit this, right? Never would admit I play video games or anything else like that. Mind you, my room, I wish I had pictures of my room as a kid. I had a poster of Bill and Ted. I had an Alf poster. I had a Spinal Tap poster. I had this wacky Dungeons and Dragons poster. I had an Iron Maiden poster. I had like a whole wall of Sega CD games. I had stacks of EGM, you know, and I had a TV in front of my bed, and like beneath it was a little console with all the consoles set up and everything, you know. And then when she eventually came over, you know, I fucking hid all that shit. Like, you know, like I put it all away. All that was in my room was an exercise ball, some dumbbells, and a guitar. And you know that this was how I spent my time. The most freaking neutered way in the world. But here's the thing. She opened up one of the drawers. And she saw the N64. And she goes, oh, you have an N64, you know, in true Tommy Boy, Chris Farley fashion. Oh, yeah, you know, I just picked that up. She's like, wow, you got a lot of N64 games. I'm like, oh, yeah, you know, like, you know, I was a Blockbuster, you know, I was checking them out. And she's like, oh, you have Mario 64. And she boots it up. She turns on. She goes, did you beat this? I'm like, Yeah, like it wasn't that hard. She's like, you can get all the stars. I'm like, at that point, inhibitors go off. I go, you don't need all the stars to beat the damn game, woman. Like, what are you talking about? She's like, then you didn't beat it. She went back and got every fucking star in my game. She is a completionist with this stuff. Mario 64 is her favorite game. She's 100% it like 50 times. In terms of the glitches and all that stuff, she has no patience for that. She likes to do it old school. But at that moment, that's kind of where I understood, okay, maybe this slightly nerdy hobby isn't so bad. Now, she does not play games the way I do. To this day, she does not. She embraces my hobby here. But she also was around during the time when I played Final Fantasy XI, and she's seen how this hobby can kind of get a little carried away. And she stuck with it. Although every time I tell her, oh, this game's an MMO, she looks at me like, we're not doing that again. But, that's really how the two of us really started to bond. Like we went to concerts, we did all this stuff. Then we go back to the house, we play some Super Mario 64, we play Mario Kart. Mario Party came out. Honestly, Mario Party was what led to our first breakup. It was it's not a cliche and it's not a meme. It actually happened. But it was bad. It was really bad. And to this day, every time a new one comes out, I mean, I get them so she can play them because she likes them, but I fucking hate them, man. It was like the stupidest argument too. We were drinking, I think, Remy Red because the liquor store by me didn't card. And I think we drank a whole bottle. And if you don't know Remy Red, it's basically Remy Martin. It's sugary nonsense with like Hawaiian punch. And so we were on a sugar high and we were bombed and we were 17. So not a good look. I think it was finals week, which makes it even worse. But you see, that's the whole thing. My friends would come over. We play Smash. She would never play Smash. Second, I say, oh, we're going to play Mario Kart. She'd be like, I get winner, And then we just trade back and forth, and she was always on. Like, she never saw. It brought me such pride when we finally went playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And one of my friends from Final Fantasy 11, we were playing one night, and he's really good at Mario Kart. And he knocked her off her horse, and I was just like, And she's looking at me, she's like, who the fuck side are you on? But anyway, so going back to the games, though, but seeing this with her, I was like, okay, so she plays games on occasion. Maybe this isn't such a terrible thing to be into in the first place. But also at the time, this is like my first... No, actually, no. It was my second, quote-unquote, serious relationship. And my first relationship did not end well. Actually, she used to be a camp counselor. She went summer camp, and I think that particular summer I was playing a lot of video games, a lot of RPGs, playing a lot of, just like I wanted romance. I was playing like all these games where there would be romantic interests and, coming of age stories and everything else and what I was studying. And I wanted that. Like, that's where I thought I was supposed to go with a relationship. And when she came back, she broke up with me just because, between the distance and everything else, people change. But this is like high school, right? And, this is the most devastating end of your life. You can't go on in high school, Little did I know I would eventually find Katie, right? And, to this day, we've had lots of ups and downs, but, we stick with each other and we try to celebrate each other, which is where Valentine's Day and our several anniversaries come in, because that is an excuse just to pull ourselves out of the monotony and just go, let's do us today. I was going to say let's do you, but let's do us, right? But with video games, and even watching me play some of these games, the retro stuff, even the remakes, the Final Fantasy 7s, the Final Fantasy 7 remake, I got into the whole topic of it. I was like, man, I remember playing these games as a kid. I had so many video game crushes. And she goes, crushes? And I go, yeah. And then, I pointed at Tifa. I go, this was one of them. And, I made the joke before. I showed her a picture of what Tifa looked like originally in the concept art for Final Fantasy VII and what she looked like in the game. And she was like, oh, dear. Like, that is, oof, you know? But seeing her in the remake and rebirth, she's like, oh, man, like, she's a bad bitch. I love her. Like, and I'm like, yeah, see? I have good taste. But, it's also just like, I think it's the time, too. The characters were over sexualized too, and when you're playing to like a teenage audience, I mean, of course, right? Lara Croft, you know I enjoyed the Tomb Raider games for what they were, but obviously there was a little bit of a design choice in there. But for me, I always had crushes on like JRPG characters, Luna, Lucia. I already talked about Tifa. Aerith, I had a little bit of one on, not so much. Loved Riku and Yuna. Yunalesca, not Yunalesca. The princess from Final Fantasy 12, who I'm drawing a blank on. Ash, Princess Ash, I had a crush on her too. I was older for that, but I was like, man, it's like, she's hot. But, just stuff like that. I mean, like, even like Pyra from Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I always thought she was attractive. Yukiko. Mitsuru from Persona 3, I always thought was attractive as an individual. I mean, mind you, now I'm 40, and I look at this stuff and I go, man, you're fucking gross. But at the time, in the 20s and high school and stuff like that, and, being starved for any sort of like, emotional attachment to somebody, stuff like this was really where it worked, and it kind of was just what it was, and now that I have that, I look at all that stuff and I'm like, man, this stuff is, and pardon the expression, it's romanticized like you would not believe. A relationship is heavy work, man. Even the good days and the bad days are challenging. It's not as easy as let's go slay the dragon and everybody's happy. I wish. But I think seeing character growth, right? And I'm not going to give any spoilers here, but if you've played Trails in the Sky, when it finally happens, thank fucking God. But you see stuff like that. And, me as an adult playing it, I'm like, for the love of God, like, you two are stupid kids. Like, for fuck's sakes, like, just admit it. Just fucking admit it. I think it's great because I think back on that whole experience with me and my initial crush, and I just would never admit it. And I look back, and at this point, I wonder, what would it have been like if I actually told her right from the get-go? Like, would things be different? Would they be the same? Would I be the same person? Would I have taken a slight detour? I eventually found out she was into video games too. And I only know that because, once again, I said, we haven't spoken in years, but, we're friends on Facebook, and, she has her own kid and she plays games with them. So I'm like, okay, obviously, and they're older games. So I'm like, okay, obviously she was into this too. And I feel like that's where I am very happy that video games are so celebrated, involved in pop culture now and everything else. And, Nintendo is like the Disney of gaming because it's okay. It's freaking okay. My mom, God bless her, but, she had the wrong idea here. Video games taught me a lot. If anything, it taught me like how you should treat people and how you shouldn't treat people through different morality systems and all this crap. Rudimentary, of course. But I don't know. I just think it's interesting. And, coming into Valentine's Day, I was actually thinking about some of the video game crushes I had and how video games and me being awkward and just not being honest with myself and, presenting me for me may have steered me in a different direction. Trust me, I'm happy where I ended up. But there's always a part of me that's like, woulda, coulda, shoulda, what if? The heart is always longing for what it can't have. Anyway, I've been Alex. Let me know about some of your video game crushes growing up. I've already shared an embarrassing list of mine, but if we're going to touch on anime too, Lena Inverse and Sailor Jupiter. I'll see y'all in the next video. Take care.